Yeah, one other thing, this is related to kind of like the community point that I was mentioning before, but I think generally with Kickstarter, you kind of want to make it like a special experience because these are the people who are backing you maybe before you have a product, when it's super early days, right? So like how are we planning to make that experience special? Because, the product gets better and better as you go on. So they might get like the worst version of the product that we ever put out, and they might pay the same amount as people are paying once the product gets a lot better. So like how are we planning to make that experience special for them? And also like how are we planning to thank them for supporting us basically from day one?
So I think one of the ways in which we're able to, I guess, thank them is by them getting the very first, like being getting access to the first product. And I know it sounds like, oh, that's how you're thanking them, but I think like a lot of people like are excited about that, excited to be the first ones to have that type of product. One of the guys that we talked to, and we had he was on the podcast earlier, mentioned that obviously his kids were too old to actually wear the product, but he wanted the product anyway. He wanted to have it because it would help him say that, okay, yeah, I was one of the first people to like support this idea, or one of the first people to like jump on board. And so having that as like almost like memorabilia is like a cool way of like kind of thanking people. And another way is like for altruistic reasons, they can donate the product, give the product, like they can sponsor it for someone else. Um, and then we've also talked about like identifying on the shoe itself in some way that they were one of the first to receive the product, or one of the original product holders. So I don't know what that might not be enough, but so what are some of the ways in which you think we can kind of thank some of our early backers?
I think that's right, more or less, everything that you said. Other things that I was thinking about is you can give them like special things that you're not going to give going forward, right? So it's a bit cliche, but like a thank you note, or maybe you record a video and you thank them. You can list them on your social media. So you could have specific shout out posts if people donate a certain amount. And then if it's a smaller amount, then maybe it's like a big list of people. Then we've also talked about having a specific section of our website where we list out all the people who are kind of like supporting us through the Kickstarter campaign. And you could even have that as part of your website for, the entirety of your business, right? And that's kind of like a cool thing to be able to point to, right? Like if we get big enough and then there's a certain part of the website and someone can kind of like navigate to that and say like, oh, here's my name. Like I was a supporter of this company before it was cool, right? I think that's a valuable thing. Um, and then another thing that we've talked about is kind of like a note of certification or something like that, where it's like I was backer number 5 of the initial 2000 or something like that, or I got pair number 42. I think that's also a pretty cool thing that you can do for people. And then there's also just like little things that we can do. Like the thing I was thinking about yesterday is you could almost do like trading cards for people or kids, right? Like a worldy specific trading card where
Yeah.
it's like their backer number, what kind of backer they were, their name, and then like a cool photo with maybe like the trace theme that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Things like that. So things that wouldn't cost us a lot of money, but um, still they're kind of like cool things that people can have as almost like keepsakes, and they're not things that we would necessarily do moving forward.
No, I think those are all really good. And some of the ideas I even forgotten, like some I hadn't heard, like the trading card one is that's pretty cool, and definitely on brand. So I think that's a really good way to kind of like thank or acknowledge some of these early backers.